arrival of the Europeans in the 1500s, many tribes in the plains lived peacefully among each other. Women grew beans, corn, and squash, while men hunted deer, elk, and buffalo. After the Spanish brought horses in the early 1540s, the Native Americans quickly became expert horseback riders and traveled far from their villages. During the 1830s, the federal government forced them to move west of the Mississippi to Indian reservations or land set aside for Native American tribes. However, the government soon tried to buy back more land. This was called to action because pioneers wanted more land in the prairies and more protection by Native Americans. Many Native American tribes signed the Treaty of Fort Laramie in 1851, which gave some land to the government and set boundaries for tribal lands. However, some Cheyenne and Sioux resisted. Cheyenne warriors attacked miners and soldiers in Colorado. In response, the Colorado militia, led by Colonel John Shivington, fired on a Cheyenne village. 150 Native Americans were killed. This became known as the Sand Creek Massacre. This massacre angered the other Plains tribes. They raided white settlements and started battles, causing many deaths, such as the Fetterman Massacre. These occurrences forced the government to pass the Second Treaty of Fort Laramie, which gave the tribes a larger reservation in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Unfortunately, miners found gold on Sioux land, and in 1874, they ignored the treaty and rushed into the Black Hills. The government offered to buy back land, but the tribal leaders rejected it. Then the Sioux united under two chiefs, Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. They battled Colonel George A. Custer's forces at the Battle of Little Bighorn. The Native Americans won. However, after the other battles, the Native Americans surrendered in 1877. Meanwhile, many other tribes like the Nez Perce, Navajo, and Apache were resisting being removed to the reservations. Eventually, all of them surrendered and moved. One day, a Native American prophet named Wovoka preached a vision of an age in which whites would be removed and Native Americans could freely hunt buffalo, which were endangered because of the white hunters. He convinced the Sioux to start performing the ghost dance. The Sioux gathered in South Dakota. Government officials thought they were preparing for war, and a temporary camp was made for them at Wounded Knee Creek on December 28, 1890. The next day, the Sioux were giving up their weapons, but one fired a shot. The army supervising the camp responded, causing the Wounded Knee Massacre. 300 Native Americans were killed. Some reformers felt sorry for the Native Americans. They felt that Americanizing them would help them survive. So the Dawes Act was passed in 1887. It was intended to encourage Native Americans to give up their traditional ways and become farmers. Native Americans would receive land and children would receive an education. In the end, the act did not benefit Native Americans much. Many ended up selling their land for a fraction of its value to whites because they were either didn't want to be farmers or lacked the money and knowledge to be one. The Native Americans went through